Hello! It is the 3rd of April and I have not done any stash busting since I recorded my last video. I have meant to, but I've been really unwell, so it's not happened. I have decided that I am going to actually do some sewing today. I did have a project that I had on the sewing machine and I fell out of love with the project. I don't know, it wasn't coming together in a way that I liked. It was this sort of semi-sheer skirt made from a top, and I knew that it would need to be lined, so then I found some fabric in my stash that I used to line it. I just didn't really like how it was coming out. So instead, I've decided to take that off the sewing machine, put it in a bag and forget about it until probably about 3 years' time, which is what I did with this project. This is a polo neck long sleeve top, which I got to the point that I needed to use this, which I bought back when I started this project, and I was too afraid to use the twin needle, so I put it in a cupboard and then I left it for 2 years. I'm still going to use it. I'm going to try and finish off this top, because really all I need to do is I wanted to put twin needle stitching sort of round here like you get on a cover stitch machine to kind of keep this from rolling over and to keep the stitching in place, because at the moment everything is zigzag stitch because I don't have stretch stitch on my machine. I've only got zigzag stitch. Yeah, so if I use the twin needle on there, then it'll give sort of like a decorative thing. I'm going to do it over on the sleeve caps as well. Sleeves up here over this seam, and then all I need to do is sew the sides together, hem the sleeves, and then it's done. And I mean, I know one of the reasons why I didn't continue this project is because I'm not excited about it. This fabric I bought to make like a t-shirt, which I made. I ended up making like a cropped t-shirt with it, and I loved it. It's great. It was one of the first stretch projects I'd made in a heck of a long time, but I bought 2 meters of it and there was actually a flaw in the fabric half a meter in, and so I got that extra half a meter with this big, it must be where the bolts were stitched together and then cut, so basically I had an extra half a meter at the beginning of the bolt, so I basically got an extra half a meter for free, which means that I did like a really short little cap sleeve for the t-shirt. I cut that out of that, and I've got this vast quantities of this fabric left. So I've been sitting there going, oh, what am I going to make with it? And I mean, yeah, so I've made a long sleeve top, which I tend to wear like underneath t-shirts or blouses or dresses or whatever. To be honest, I don't know how much wear I'm going to get out of this. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not that excited about it. Also, I based the pattern for the like polo neck part of it off a polo neck that I have and own and wear a reasonable amount, and it's got more of a stretch, and I just didn't really consider that when I was doing the pattern. And so this is actually the second version of this turtleneck, this turtleneck's piece, and it's a bit bigger than the first one because the first one could barely get over my head. This one, there's a bit more give in it, so it does fit over my head, but I'm already nervous that it's not going to fit. Anyway, I am going to tackle the twin needle. I'm going to do some practicing first. I've sewn a few test samples. So this is using stitch length 2. This is using stitch length 3. I think I'm going to go with the stitch length 3 because I think it's more obvious that there is a stitch, and I think that's more what I want. But I was worried about this. I don't know why I was really worried about this. It seems really easy. Yeah. And I think I'm going to start on the shoulder seams, because I think if I mess the shoulder seams up, then I think it's going to be less obvious than if I start on the neckline, because I think the neckline's sort of like right there. So let's have a go at this. Let's start at the back. Let's start at the back. Because if I can't see it, it doesn't matter. Wish me luck. Okay, well, the line is now very, very wobbly. Let's see if I can. So if we take a look at what I've just sewn, it's really, really wobbly, like bumpy. I'm quite pleased with how it's come out looking. I think it looks quite good. I'm glad I chose the stitch length of 3. Like this first little section here seems fine, but then as it comes round, yeah, it sort of starts off quite flat, and then it comes around here, it's getting very wavy and lumpy and bubbly. I don't know, I'm hoping that'll just press out. Otherwise it might just have to be something I live with, but I'm quite pleased with that. Yeah, I'm going to go away, do the other one. So I did something just a little bit dumb. Let me explain. So on my first seam, it was one of the sleeves, and I don't know if you can see. Okay, so there's the zigzag stitch of my regular stitch, and then there's the twin needle zigzag underneath, and running along that, it kind of runs over the edge of the seam and sort of presses it down, holds it in place, which is what I wanted to do. So the first one was like perfect. The second one, I clearly hadn't trimmed back the seam as much, so I ran about the same distance away, which is to the edge of the hole in my presser foot, and I ran it about the same distance away, and if you have a look, you can see that there's a bit more out the top poking out. However, so I was just like, okay, well that means that for that one, because I hadn't trimmed the seam back as far, I can, if I wanted it to sort of go over the edge or like right up to the edge, then I would have needed to have moved the, you know, the twin needle further from the from the seam there. But I didn't want to do that, because if I did that, then it wouldn't have matched the other side. So I was relaxed about that. But I was like, okay, so when I do the neckline, I can do it slightly further away. I'll do it to the edge of the, just inside the edge of the presser foot, because that should basically straddle the edge of the seam allowance here. So it should sort of cover the edge of the seam allowance. I mean, it's stretch, it's like knit, it's not going to fray, but it just sort of keeps it in place and makes it tidy. And I thought, well, it's quite bulky because it's 2 layers of this and an extra layer of this. So I will grade the seam allowance. I will trim one of the seam allowances down just to make it just slightly less bulky around the neckline. So I did that. And halfway through cutting it, I realised that the one that I decided to grade down was the outside one, i.e. the one that's going to be seen. So here you can see this top one is my twin needle line. This was my sewing line, and this blue edge, this is where I graded it down, and then there's actually 2 layers under there. What I should have done was graded down either of the internal 2 layers, so that this one would lay on top of it and sort of sandwich it in, and then it would have been a nice clean line. It's not the end of the world, but it's just one of those things that I realised kind of halfway through cutting, when it's too late, that I've done something that's a bit dumb. So Libby, I am happy. I have finally finished my stripy top. Oh, this is a terrible camera angle. Why am I doing this to myself? I am happy. I finally finished my blue and white stripy top. I've started it about maybe 2 years ago. I am really happy with how it's turned out. There's one thing that I'm slightly annoyed about, but I could not be bothered to change. Basically, on one of the sleeves, like, the stripe runs all the way around and then joins at the seam onto its own stripe. So it makes a full loop. On one of the sleeves, it doesn't make a full loop, it makes a spiral. So it's down one. So if you follow this one round, come all the way around the back, it comes out the notch down. So it makes the sleeve slightly twisted, because I very carefully lined up the edge. And I actually did this on both sleeves, and I spotted it on one of them, so I unpicked everything, because when I tried to iron it out, it just wasn't ironing right. So I unpicked it it re-sewed the arm, fixing it, and then it made it not lie nice and flat. Then I trimmed all the seams and was folding up the ends of the sleeves to do the hem, and it turns out that I'd also done the same thing on the other sleeve, but for some reason it wasn't twisting nearly as badly, but it still twisted like a little bit. So because it wasn't twisting so badly, I thought I can't be bothered, so I just sewed it and cut it off, and honestly it really doesn't make that much of a difference. There was part of me that was like, should I go back and re-sew that arm? And I just can't be bothered. Like with the smaller seam allowance, it would just be a pain to get under the machine and I wouldn't be as happy. So I just figured that, screw it, I'll just do what I've done, and it may not be perfect, but it'll be done. And I'd be happy with not perfect but done, because nothing's ever going to be absolutely perfect, but it's done. So I will show you, I will take a picture, hopefully after doing some other stuff. But yeah, that's the first thing. It's now the 10th of April. Yeah, it's the 10th of April, so I might get one more thing finished this month. I may just not finishing anything else, but I'm really happy that I've got that finished and 100% done, and I can add it to my wardrobe. I mean, it's now April, so I'm not gonna have much cool for a long sleeve turtleneck, but you know, I can add it to my wardrobe.
And now for a segment called Existential Crisis with Katie.
Do you know, I had to think, and I thought about why has it taken me this long to finish this top, and do you know why? It's because I'm not excited about it. Like I'm not excited about a stripy long sleeve top. It's just not very exciting. It's not very interesting. I don't care that much, and that's why I've not finished it until now, because it doesn't excite me, so I didn't want to work on it. And it's not that I won't use the finished garment. I probably will, but I don't need it in my wardrobe. I'm not yearning for it in my wardrobe. And so I don't think it's a big surprise that I haven't been very excited about it. So but it's done, and I'm happy that it's done. But yeah, I think one of the things that I think I need to make sure I do, because I have less crafting time these days, and I don't want to spend a lot of time making things that I'm not excited about, because actually, you know, why should I spend my time making stuff that I'm not excited about? If I'm not excited about it, then I don't make it. Like, you know, I don't want to make something that's practical. It's the reason I don't knit, like knitwear. But I mean like thin yarn, because it takes so long to make anything, and I'm just not excited by it, you know. This is another thing that I'm slowly coming to the conclusion. I don't really like a lot of knitwear. Like knitting and crochet, I love the process. So like particularly crochet, I like the process of crocheting. I really like making and the sort of repetitive but having to think, and I really like that process. But I don't actually like the finished products very much. Like, I spent ages making this blanket for our living room, and it looks great, but I don't like it that much. Like, it's fine, but I don't know. So yeah, and I've been planning a jumper. I don't know what I'm going to do about it, because basically I have just about 100 grams of 2 colours of Drops Melody, which I picked up from the charity shop after I knew I was going to do some stash busting. So I definitely broke my, I'm not going to buy anything. It was like £3 for 100 grams, which seemed very cheap. And then there was another one which didn't have the ball band, but I'm pretty sure it's also Drops Melody. Because it feels exactly the same. It's woven in the same, like it's wrapped in the same way. It feels and looks the same. And that's like 120 odd grams. So I'm thinking that I might be able to get away with making a jumper out of them. But I would have to do some like colour work, like striping or something, because otherwise it's not going to make up. Like I'm not going to have enough yarn. And I don't know. I'm thinking about this a lot and I'm not doing anything. So I kind of want to just start on a project, like, you know, cast on a project that I can just get done. Oh God. Okay, let me tell you about one of the things that happened with this long sleeve top. I made this silly mistake. Twin needles. I mean, I don't know why I was so afraid. They're great. Really, really good. I love the effect that it makes. It makes the garment look really, really professional. Even on my really cheap sewing machine, I was able to get it to work. And it looks amazing, looks really professional. Big fan. However, remember to take your sewing machine out of zigzag stitch before putting the twin needle in, because otherwise you break your twin needle and you have to go off and pick up another one. Luckily, I live fairly near a hobby craft, so I was able to pick one up, and I didn't buy anything else. Yes. That doesn't happen. Like, going to Hobbycraft is a recipe for disaster, because I will buy fabric or yarn or a sketchbook or a craft kit that I don't need. Right, I'm gonna go because I've been talking for 15 minutes and I don't know what I'm chatting about. So I went to have a look and see what I've got next on the go, and I think I'm going to tackle something that I've had in my altar pile for a surprisingly long length of time. And I think it's going to take about 10 minutes. And genuinely, I don't know why I've not done this before, because this is a hoodie that I got in 2008 at the Judo British Championships. This is the Junior Championships, actually. It's a size small, which was fine when I was 16, but it shrank a little bit on the first wash, and then I did grow just a little bit more, and it's never really fit since. So it's had somewhere, like, it fits, but it's just a little too snug. And the biggest problem is not its actual, width. The width is fine. Width is absolutely fine. But what I want to do is I want to make it like it's the length that's the problem, right? Because as I got bigger, my body length got longer, and that's what the problem is. It's too short to be a comfy hoodie. If it's cropped, it's obviously cropped, but it's not. It just looks too short, and I'm eternally pulling it down to make it longer. So that's why I don't wear it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it to make it a cropped hoodie. Because here's the thing, I don't wear this. I think the reason why I've not done anything on this until now is because I'm slightly worried that I'm going to cut it and I hate it, and I still don't wear it. I mean, the answer is that I don't wear it now, so if I cut it and I hate it, well, I've not lost anything. So I might as well just cut it, and I'm thinking I might just lie it up on my cutting mat, get the French curve out, and do a bit of a, like, high to low line on the hem. So here to here, and then I just don't think I'm even going to bother hemming it, because I don't think I need to. And then, because I've got short arms, so the sleeves are kind of okay, but even then, if I don't like the sleeves, I could always cut the sleeves off and make it like a short-sleeved cropped hoodie, because that's definitely a thing. Or I could just take the sleeves off completely and have it like a sleeveless hoodie. I don't know, like, I'm just trying to turn something that I don't wear into something that I might wear. And cropped hoodie, I might wear that. I've never had one, but I might wear that, so let's go with that. It took me 5 minutes, maybe 10 in total, because I trimmed off the bottom. I've left the sleeves as they are, but I've trimmed off the bottom, put a few stitches into the side seams to stop those unravelling, and it's done. again, that's been sitting in my to-do pile for like a year, probably longer than that. I can't believe it's taking me that long to deal with that. So, that's done. And it's 2 things ticked off my list, 2 things done, 2 things out of the stash. Hello. It is the 1st of May, and therefore I thought I'd do a roundup of all of the things that I have been stash busting this month. I'm not quite sure when I last did an update. I don't think I've done one since I finished doing my jumper. So, and part of that is because I haven't actually been doing that much crafting. I've not been feeling that well, and so I've had like a really low couple of weeks, and so I've just not felt like getting the sewing machine out or doing any crafting really. So there's not a huge amount to update on, but let's do a quick run through. So the first thing that I finished is this turtleneck long sleeve top. I have some notes. I have a lot of notes. This is a project that I've had in my to-do list for literally years. For genuinely like a couple of years. So I'm really pleased to get it out of the work in progresses and done. The main reason why I didn't finish it is because I was really worried about doing, so you see this double stitching here, and on the neckline, and on the hem, yeah, all of those. I was really worried about doing that, and so I just didn't do anything. I just avoided the situation by not continuing to work on this, and it sat there with the sleeve sewn on, but the sides not stitched up for about 2 years in my cupboard. And I've now finally finished it, and I have some notes, but I'm actually quite happy with how it's turned out. I'm really happy with the double stitching, the twin needle stitching. It looks really good. It stretches wonderfully. Yeah, it's great. I'm a big fan. I'm not a big fan of how so this is the zigzag that I used on the seams. I'm not a big fan of how that sort of goes like that, but there's not a lot you can do about that. That's just sort of the nature of using a zigzag stitch. But I don't really like that, but honestly, I don't care that much. What I do care about is I was smaller when I started this. Yeah, my body was smaller, and it is somewhat notable. Not that much, but so when I made this, I just made it long, with the intention that I would trim it, like hem it to the length that I wanted it to be. So when I finally sewed it up, measured it up with the length that I wanted it to be, and I hemmed and cut it to that length. Great, no problem. But when I wore it, the length just gently rode its way up my body until, I had the hem was around my waist. Because this gap around here, this length here, basically isn't quite wide enough to accommodate what is now my slightly bigger belly. Therefore, it has a tendency to ride up. Now, it's not the end of the world, but if it was slightly longer, then that wouldn't happen. The other thing that I would complain about a little bit is this neck. Now, I copied this from the actual length from another top that I own that I love. It is a much thinner. I think it's slightly shorter than this. I think I might have made this even longer than it was, and it's too long. Really, like when it's folded down once, it is like right up to my neck here, and it's just about fine. but ideally I'd want to be folded down again. I think realistically I wanted about a third off that. So if I'd had it maybe that long instead of that long, that long, then it would have been folded down half to about that length, which would have given me that turtleneck, but not like right up here. I mean, it will be good for riding on the motorbike in the winter because it will keep my neck warm. It will be warm. I don't know, it's a little tight. And I actually the reason this is really, really crumpled is I pulled this out of the washing because I wore it once and I got a bit itchy. And I think it might have been treated with something that's just I'm a bit sensitive to. Now, I have made a crop top with this fabric before, and it doesn't make me itchy. So I suspect that it's just because it's quite tight at the neckline and it's only been washed once. So I'm just going to wash it again. And hopefully, if there is anything that was used to treat it, it's washed out. It's fine. So that was project number 1 that was finished. Project number 2 is this cropped hoodie. Ta-da! Which, I mean, this has been sitting in my to upcycle pile for not actually that long, but I've wanted to upcycle it for a long time. Cut the top off and it's cropped, and I have worn it since making it, and it's fine. I will probably use it come the summer, actually, because having a cropped hoodie is not a terrible thing come the summer, but with the weather has been the weather has been so bad here in the UK in this spring, so it's too cold to wear a cropped hoodie. So I've not really worn it that much, and I'm still not sure if I actually like it or not. And it's a bit tight, it's not like that kind of loose, oversized this that you get with a cropped hoodie, where it tends to be a bit sort of oversized and baggy at the top. So I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it, but it is what it is for the moment. I'm going to see how much use I get out of it. And if I end up not using it very much, well, I wasn't using it anyway, so I don't feel bad about it. And those are the only 2 sewing projects I've actually done this month. I have, however, started a knitting project. Now, I don't knit very much. I think of myself as more of a crocheter than a knitter. And part of that is because knitting hurts my hands. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, it makes my fingers hurt, like my little fingers. I get sore hands, and then it's sort of, I feel it up my forearms. I don't know whether it's something to do with my technique or what. But knitting in general hurts my hands, so I don't do that much of it. But I've really wanted to knit. Like, I've really had that itch of wanting to knit. And I picked up this yarn from a charity shop. Oh, scrunchy. So it was 2 balls of this yarn. This is Drops Melody. Colour 03 apparently. So I've been going backwards and forwards on what to do with this yarn, because this is one of those ones that are it's quite thin. It's quite a thin yarn, but it's very fluffy, so you tend to knit it on big needles. I think the label says like 8mm needles, so US 11. So those are big needles. This is, I think these might be 9mm needles, so big needles. I looked at some patterns and I didn't like any of the patterns, and you tend to need to have like particular needles and particular yarn. I thought I'd just make up a pattern, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to make probably a cardigan. I thought I might do a jumper, but I think it's going to end up being a cardigan. And this is the back panel. Oh, also, most modern knitting patterns uses circular needles, and I've never used circular needles. I don't have circular needles. I only have... So this is from my grandma's knitting set, which when she moved out of her house, I picked these up because they were going. So yeah, and I'm quite pleased with how it's coming at the moment. I am a little worried it's going to be too small. And part of that is because it's not very big. I wrap it around myself and I go, I mean, it's certainly not going to be a loose fitting garment, let's put it that way. I think I'm also really worried about running out of yarn because this is all I have. Like, I'm not going to go out and buy more of this. You know, this was supposed to be quite a cheap purchase, and you know, I could make like a short sleeve jumper or something out of it, or like a vest or something like that. But I don't want to do that. I want to make a cardigan. So I'm going to make a cardigan. And at the moment, I think it's going to be sort of like a bit of a cropped cardigan. So I'm thinking maybe a bit like a bomber jacket style. So at the moment, I have checked this against a similar cardigan that's like knit fabric. And it's about the right width. So I'm hopeful. But you know what? I also figured that if I knit this up and the back is too small, then I can just make the front wider. If I sit there and I go, oh, I think this is too small, I can just make the front wider. You know, and then sort out the sleeves. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to do about the sleeves. I think they're probably going to... Well, again, I sew, so I know what a sleeve pattern should look like. So I might just wing it and see what happens. Like, this is a big experiment, and I'm quite enjoying it. And yeah, it's just an experiment. Because I've not knitted for a long time, and every time I get back to it, so I've been trying to not do too much. So maybe like at most an hour a day, sort of on the days that I worked on it. I've done about sort of 4 or 5 days where I just sat down and done some knitting, and maybe done about an hour. And any more than that, my hands are starting to hurt, which I did do on. So I did a bit of a swatch. So I think I did. So this is 40 stitches. This is 40 stitches along, and I don't know how many rows this is now. I have got a notebook somewhere, but I think that's about 8, and then 4, and then 4, and then 4, and then 4. And then I'm back on to, and I think I'm just going to do like stockinette stitch all the way to the top now. This was just to add some interest because I thought it'd be boring otherwise. And then I like this ribbing. So this is a knit 2 purl 2 ribbing, and I'm quite happy with it. It's a bit more interesting than just like a knit 1 purl 1 rib. So I don't know. You know, I really wanted to knit, so I decided to do some knitting. Anyway, so plans for next month. This is a pair of shorts that I bought a couple of years ago, and I really like. They fit well, they're comfortable, they're so breezy, they've got elasticated waistband. They are just comfortable. And I have this set of fat quarters, and I am going to remake those shorts using these. My plan is I've got 4 panels basically on these shorts. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to make each of those panels out of so I've got bees, I've got butterflies, I've got a mixture of all, and then I've got birds. feel it's very sort of spring-like, and the lighting is awful. It's so dark. It's sort of very spring-like. Something very spring-like about that. I've got this, which I think is going to be the accent, and I hope we'll sort of tie it all together. It feels a little autumnal, whereas the rest of it is a bit spring-like, but I think it will work as like an accent piece. So I'm thinking of having, I was originally thinking, so the pocket facing here, I was thinking of having that sort of like bright showing through, but I don't think I like that. What I might do is do it for the waistband. So I have it for the waistband, and then I might do like a fake turned up hem, and do that with this. Or maybe just bind the hem with this instead. I'm not sure, I haven't 100% worked it out. But I think I might use that, and so sort of have that sort of link it all together and make a nice pair of shorts out of those. And then I've got some old bed sheets that I'll use as the lining. So that is my plan for May. That's the sewing I've got planned in May. I'm going to continue with my bomber cardigan, and I'd hope to get that finished this month. I don't knit very quickly and it hurts my hands. So as far as sewing plans go, I have a holiday booked for the end of June. So actually, what I should be doing is making the clothes that I'm missing from my wardrobe, or fixing the clothes that are missing from my wardrobe, because I have a wonderful dress that I love, but it just needs a bit of TLC. It's a summer dress, so that I need to get that done before we go on holiday. So I might get that done this month. That may be next month, but we'll see. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.